are called. It's almost our last stop. The last one will be in the Bastion. It's a warmer place. So we reached an Armenian part of the city. As we spoke earlier, Armenians were that I found an old picture of the church you see in front of you. Armenians were here since the city was founded, and they weren't very rich. So they built at the same spot that we see our new church, as we all call it. They built a small wooden church, but in 1642 there was a blessing inside the church. There was a miraculous icon of Stanislava and Holy Mary. You see the copy of the icon on the top of the roof of the church between the cupolas. Another picture that I found. Times it was this is the beginning of the 19th century. This is how the church looked like. And you can imagine that in small... Oh, I told you 1642, yes? I'm sorry, it was 1742. Back at the time, there was a small wooden church. And you can imagine that pilgrims, they were visiting our city to see our Roman Catholic Church, beautiful, made of rock, solid rock. The walls inside were painted, but yet when they heard that there is an icon, a miraculous one, that is inside a small wooden church, they all were visiting this church instead of the Roman Catholic. The owner of the city still were Potocki family, and you can imagine that they built out of their own money the whole brand new church, and all the people were visiting the small wooden one that was not in very good condition. Why so? Because the Holy Mary began to cry in 1742 due to one woman. She was doing laundry near the Bystrota, and her child fell into the river. She was careless, and the child drowned. She was so upset that she took a child, brought it into the church, lay down as a cross, and in the morning the child was breathing. This is the real story. Why can I tell you so? Because every miraculous icon has its own archive, where the people are listing the miraculous things that happened to them or to ones they love. And there is still existing this list of miracles that icon was helping people with. Because of the icon, what Potocki did, can you imagine? They created a whole new tax, 10% of the profit of each one in the city. Well, we all paid taxes, and 10% of the taxes that were paid by citizens of Stanislava at that time were given to the Armenians, not like money, they were like solid rock or some other material that was used to build this church. And the church you see in front of you was built in 1762, 20 years after the miraculous icon began to cry inside the wooden church. It was put near the iconostasis and was the first spot to visit by the old pilgrims who were at Stanislav at that time. The church was Armenian back then, and what happened next? During the World War II, Germans also didn't like Armenians, and they were often leaving cities as well. Our Armenians did the same. Most of them just walked around the different countries, but those who took the icon with themselves came to Gdańsk, where they settled and where the Stanislavian Holy Mary is still preserved. So the icon isn't lost, it is in Gdańsk, and all the Armenians vanished. We don't have them in Ivano-Frankivsk anymore. It was 1942, 43, where they all left. But back then, we all knew that this church is a sacred place, so we just couldn't give it to become a storage or something like that. There was opened a museum of atheism during the Soviet period, and afterwards the church was given to our Orthodox, Autokefali Orthodox Church, Ukraine. And now this is the Church of Virgin Mary, conception of Virgin Mary. Inside, by the way, have you all been inside the church? Yes. So, and have you been in Armenian church in Lviv? Yes. Someone had, someone hasn't. So those who hasn't visited, because you will see that Armenians have a little bit different point of view on the icons that they are painting. In Ukrainian iconography, you have to paint a saint standing, hands cannot be crossed, the saint cannot be seen. When you visit this church, you will see on the right you will see the fresk where Holy Mary is like playing with her child. It was okay for Armenians to paint the saints something like that, because they believed that saints also were humans when they were on earth with us. So they were also behaving somewhat like humans. That is very well depicted in Lviv Armenian church, because there you will even see the faces of those people who were giving money for the church, who were founding it. Well, as in Italy as well, the same, the Renaissance period, those who were paying for the fresks also were depicting among the saints. So here in this church you will be able to compare, and there is a little bit of difference where you see the icons of Orthodox Church and the fresks on the walls. Plus all the wooden sculptures inside, they are not marble. Now you can see the wood because of the small cracks that appeared on them in the recent years. They are all wooden. And also a small fact that few years ago, when there was some restoration in the basement of the church, there were found 3 icons that were just, how to say, wrapped in very old cloth. And when the icons were separated, between them all was one that was very good preserved, and it was also a copy, or maybe not a copy, of Stanislavian Holy Mary. So when you visit the church, on the left you will see the copy of Stanislavian Holy Mary. Also our priest brought the rock from Saint Mountain Afon, and the girls who want to have a child, they are all praying to Virgin Mary, and they say that it helps them because of the feet of the Holy Mother and the icon itself. Plus, when the Germans left our town after the World War II, all the artillery, every weapon that was left was put in this small square before the church. Because during the bombing, you see that here we have a little bit like modern constructions. Really, even the Trinitary Monastery was completely destroyed. One of the cupolas was partly destroyed, and the wall was cracked, but the wall cracked only to the position where the Holy Mary icon was made, and nothing happened to the church itself. I was trying to find the pictures yesterday where you can see the weapons in front of the steps of the church, but I wasn't able to find one, unfortunately. But if you visit our museum in the town hall, I saw the picture, I don't recall on which floor. I saw that the photo inside, and really you are watching this picture, it's just some kind of mystery. So, the rain is still going on. Maybe let's go to the bastion. There I will be able to show you how the city structure looks like. And you will be able maybe to warm yourself a little bit. So, Info Central changed the wallpaper to the festival Ivano-Frankivsk. I don't know if you have seen a new movie that they made. I specially downloaded for you, but I don't want to show you here where it's freezing. We will go downstairs to the bastion, and there I will be able to show you the new video that they created promo for Frankivsk. It's warmer, yes? In here. So what I wanted to show you is the structure of the city. Can you imagine? This is the new map. We are now in this part of the bastion, which is red color. You all know that Myroslava was originally made as an ideal city. What it means, ideal city? Not that idealistic live here, no, nothing like that. The ideal city means that every road has to lead to the central part, to the market square, in our case. Plus, as the basis of the formation was chosen one of the pentagon, octagon, or something like that. The geometrical figure which was called ideal, with ideal angles. The original city had 6 angles without Potocki Palace, like this, and it had 6 bastions. Few years later, at the beginning of 70s, the end of 1690s, 70s, Potocki decided to build themselves a palace, so the structure was a little bit changed. Still remained the 6 bastions, and there were built 2 half bastions. Why this type of construction was ideal for the fortresses? As you see now, it is a little bit changed to the needs of contemporary tourists, the bastion. The walls weren't high, but if someone wanted to invade the city, it was the best way to fight against them, because when we have a tower around tower, there also are so-called blind zones, where a soldier can stand, look at you, and you won't be able to shoot him or to do anything with him. That's why there were created bastions with angles, where any soldier would be able to fight back his city. If you are more interested, I also have a video. There's a video for 10 minutes, if I recall correctly, that art gallery bastion created about the city itself and about the structure of the bastion, how it was used during the wars. You can anytime, by the way, if your guests arrive to Ivano-Frankivsk and you want to show them something by yourself, you can ask the administration of the bastion at any time to turn on for you a small movie. There's the projector and a small piece of white wall where the movie is all the time playing on, if you ask for it. So it's free of charge. at any time. I don't know if you knew about that. If don't, so get notice. Maybe when your friend visits Ivano-Frankivsk, that would be a quick 10-minute history view of the city. This is the older plan, the same one. How the fortress looked like. Why it was completely destroyed. When we were part of Polish and Potocki owned us, they had their own private army that lived inside these bastions. But when we became part of Austro-Hungarian Empire, after 1772, after the division of Poland, Potocki family loved us so much that they even rented our city. They paid rent to Austrians to be in charge of everything that was going on in the city. The last owner is considered to be Potocki, and afterwards we became, how to tell, free city. So we were governed by the burgomister, like the mayor of the city, which was elected during the Austrian heritage. When we became part of Austro-Hungarian Empire, no one was invading our lands and there was no need for such structure as fortress. Can you imagine there were only two main ways to the city, the Pesmenica gate and the Hautska gate, and the third one was a pedestrian, only a pedestrian small gate where you were able to go out of the city. So can you imagine if you lived somewhere in here, in this building, back in 1780s, if you wanted to go to the market square, you had to go this way, or even this way. Only three ways to get inside the center part of the city. It wasn't convenient, so Austrians decided that the structure should be destroyed. As the stone solid rock, it was a good building material, plus the bricks also was a nice building material. So stone was used to pave our streets, and out of brick were built many of the buildings that were restored after the fires, which were very often in our city. And that's why the structure was completely destroyed. By the way, the whole Stanislaville that we walked around is a young one, because the older buildings, 1660s, 1690s, they were mostly built out of wood. And you know that wood burns very good. And only after the massive, we called it a jelly fire, in 1868, the government decided that we cannot build wooden homes, buildings inside the central part of Stanislaville anymore. By the way, I guess more of you heard about that fire. Why so quickly all the buildings were restored afterwards? The fire started on Lipova Street, contemporary Shevchenko Street, and the woman that started the fire, who was making a jam, she lived not far from the time of that time burgomister, the mayor of the city, and his house was the third that burned to the ground after the house of the women. Women, her neighbor, and then the burgomister's home. Of course, he was very upset of it, and he even got a credit, a big credit from Austro-Hungarian government, but he was very, how to say, very nice builder and very clever burgomister. So we never returned the funds, and the Austrians rebuilt it, the city, by their own money, using their own money. So the whole market square and mostly buildings that were damaged during the fire on the Lepova Street also were rebuilt using the government funds. And that's why we have all our buildings younger than 1868. Plus, during that fire, most of our archive inside the town hall also burned. That's why we don't have the exact dates of buildings or some events that happened in our city. Unfortunately, all our historians had to go through the archives of Krakow, Vienna and other cities to find something about Stanislavia, because otherwise maybe everything we would know only about the dates that are after 1868. A sad story, but that's what we have now. And the bastion itself now is maybe the first spot that every tourist visits because of the souvenir shops. Plus, we all tell them that they can watch a small movie with English subtitles. That is also very convenient for them to know something more about our city. And in the end, I told you that I would like to show you a new promo because now Ukrainian cities are fighting for the title of cultural capital of Ukraine, and they all had to present the promo of festivals and different events that can be very, very good in promotion of our city. The video I found was published in March. If I recall correctly, now it's on the third place among all the videos of Ukrainian cities. I don't know when maybe you heard, but I don't know when the title will be given and to whom. But I think that if we will become the cultural capital of Ukraine, then our Ruslan Marcinkiv will definitely tell all of us. So from the beginning of the video.
Вітаю, ваша подорож розпочалась. Машини цього міста на вас чекають.
Very nice one. Because no. Maybe higher.
машин.
Неймовірно. Місто великих людей. І кожен з них вершина.
А у них ще й провела є.
I guess this is one of the best promos that were made for Ivano-Frankivsk, for Festival Ivano-Frankivsk. So on this positive note, I'd like to thank you all for visiting during this beautiful weather, today's weather, for walking with me. I hope that you learned something new for yourself, rediscovered your city for yourself, get acquainted with it for the first time. And as we ended our tour on the festivals, so please visit us again, visit our festivals, and only because of you we will live again and go through this whole pandemic period. So thank you very much.
Thank you.